Hello, St. Louis. Welcome back for another episode of, wow, I almost said Mo Football for a second. Top Corner Talk with Mo and Oscar. And we have, I don't know, he might become official very soon, but Jeremy, thanks for joining. How are you, fellas?
Good. What's
Good?
we can be.
Doing all right. You guys might pick up my loan deal at the end of the season. We'll see how it goes.
And we have health. We woke up this morning, so I think I'm good. That's it.
Yep.
Yes, and apparently Charlie's having power issues, so that's why it's live. There's always the unexpected. But also there was another unexpected was yesterday where City played against Austin, and we also had a double header. But before we get to the winning side of things, we City lost 1-0, and from what we read on online and everything, maybe St. Louis has a few questions. So, for our guest first, Jeremy, could you maybe give us a little bit, of how you feeling after this game?
In a word, frustrated. Have a lot of questions about what we're doing offensively. As you said, there's a lot of conversation online about, I was happy to see us attacking, but I think my biggest question, guys, is how much of it is because we're good and can attack, and how much of it was because Austin just let us do what we wanted?
Good question. Good question. So what we're probably going to do is let's go ahead and start from the back and going forward, since I think it's probably would be the best one. So Ben Luth, his performance at this moment, he had to step up for Berkey the last two games, allowed 2 goals. So the average 2 goals per 2 games is not too bad. So how would you guys rate his performance yesterday? Oscar?
I think he's fine. I think he's doing what he needs to do. I mean, it's not a commander in the back, and we know that it's not going to be as Berkey is, obviously, but he's doing what he needs to be doing. He got a couple good saves. I believe in the first half had a good one that it could be an easy 2-0 game, and then just climb away from us. So with his feet, I think he's getting more confident. Is trying to connect a little bit more of the long ball. So just fair to say, just he's doing what a regular goalkeeper will do, not a superstar goalkeeper.
That's a good point.
Yeah, he's
Jeremy?
doing what he's doing 100%. He's doing what you expect, making the saves he has to make. Wasn't really at fault for the goal, in my opinion. Distribution is getting a little bit better each game. So overall, 2 games or however many it's been now since Berkey's been out, not mad at his performance. He's been fine.
Yeah, so pretty much typical goalie performance. All right, so the one that kind of raised a lot of eyebrows when the roster was released, when we saw that it was almost like a back five. So Jeremy, what was your impression? Were you very surprised, or was there a more of a we're in trouble?
The back five in this game against Austin, the ones that he used as center backs, the 5 center backs that played.
Yes.
Yeah. I was surprised by the starting lineup. Yeah. 5 center backs, shifting Hebert out wide. Don't like him in that role. Love Josh Yarrow. Wasn't bad in his positioning. But I was surprised. I was curious to see how it was going to shake out with Yarrow and Nilsson both in that center back line, really changing up from what we've seen all season.
Right.
Wasn't really impressed by Nilsson, gonna be honest about it. Thought he got beat multiple occasions, including playing a role in the goal. So I wasn't, other than Kessler, the back line didn't impress me.
Oscar?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my biggest upsets of this game was the way that he set up his lineup. Not only talking about the back 5 or the back 3, or for me, the defensive aid that he put in place,
Sure.
because that's what he did. He put 8 defensive players in a home game. I don't understand how. I don't understand why. There's other players that we're gonna touch base later on, but it just there's so many different options that he could have to attack to create any type of game. But I mean, he decided to go defensively solid, and it didn't even look solid. And what Jeremy said, it was because Nielsen wasn't up to speed. He definitely is not um, ready to take that role that we were expecting him to have since year one. I mean, he has had solid games, but we get it. Like multiple injuries, it's hard to keep up with the game fitness and everything like that. Like he clearly is not up to speed. Like you could see how fast Kessler cuts into balls, cuts into spaces, and Nielsen is like 3 speeds behind it. Yes, like 2 plays that were extremely similar from what was his name, Osaki or Okasi?
You talking the
Bakari?
goal scorer or Bukari? Because there's a
Bukari,
Bukari.
sorry,
Yeah.
Bukari. There were 2 similar plays. They were exactly the same. They were right in front of my face because I'm right in that corner of the field, and he did the same thing. Move, fake to the outside, cut him to the inside, and Nielsen just bit that move 100% and let him go inside. And obviously, there was not enough support to cover that cut. And that's where you ask, hey, we put 8 defensive players. How, when one move takes one of our center backs, there's not another player cutting that move? And that's a little difference of what we saw the first 2 games of this season. The first 2 games of this season, when someone got beat, there was 3 around them cutting that second ball. We
Yeah.
didn't see it this game.
So would you think it's probably one of the factors that Totland is not playing, where you see that he has sort of the speed and kind of the flair. I think he would probably be the best matchup to Bakari when it comes to like the speed and aggressiveness, and almost thought like when you take 2 players to try to match for one player that you're missing, it almost looks like Josh has a little bit more of the speed to try to cover, and then Nielsen has more of the defensive side. It looks like they were the combination for like almost covering for Totland a little bit more. That's why they had almost like 5 defenders ish.
Yeah, I mean,
Because Bakari
Totland,
was if there was like a back three, Bakari probably would have had a lot more chances and a lot more shots on goal, and probably would have scored if he was pretty much mistreating Nielsen as much.
yeah, I mean, Totland is definitely a big piece that we're missing.
Yeah.
And we're noticing minute after minute that we're missing a good piece on the right. But what for me is shocking is that we have had great performances defensively. It's only 2 goals in 6 games, so it shouldn't be that concerning. But at the same time, why are we changing so much? Because something was working. Why are we changing so much? Like the first 2 games, we kept basically the same back three. Okay, we lost Scotland in the 4th game or 5th game, whatever it was. I believe the 4th one. And then we just start flipping those lineups everywhere. Like I don't see why we could have just easily kept with Heber, Kessler, Horn, Wallen on the left, and find someone on the right. Who can be? Oh, what about Celio? Even if it's not his preferred side,
Right.
but he's a winger. Let's not reinvent the wheel here.
Mm-hmm.
Put players where they need to be playing.
Hey,
Well-
you asked for Celia to be on. Look at you. That's
You
I
look,
mean,
that's the
I
start.
will ask you to play Celia right now in every single game,
He've earned it.
especially the
Yes.
way that he performed yesterday.
yes.
But
We'll get to his. Yes.
yeah, because we don't have anybody else that is similar in those um, style of playing right now. That we need someone fast and that can go up and down and cover what Tottenham was doing. So I don't understand why we're switching so much. So that's my point of view on our defense, like why we're creating such mess there where it's not needed. Horn has performed very good in the one-on-one situations
Yes. Yes.
comparing to what Nielsen just did.
Yeah, I mean they could have had three. They had one called back for offside. The other one, or did they get two called back for offside? Because they did get at least, or I don't remember. Either way, you're 100% right. I guess my question is thinking about backline defenders, and we saw Baumgartel come on as a striker, right? I mean, I get you're desperate for bodies in the box when that happened, but where's he at? He had 100 touches in the game, City 2 game the weekend before. What's he got to do to get time to come in and get in that role as a ball playing defender? I think we're over adjusting, like Oscar said. We're over adjusting, making too many changes to that back line. If you want to move Hebert out and make him the right wing back while Tots is still down, fine. Then slot in Baumgartel. But yeah, to put Kessler between two guys that haven't, I'm sure they played in training, right? They train together, but they haven't played in a match together yet. So I don't know what the chemistry is there.
Definitely. And I think the other question was knowing that Austin was good defensively, but not offensively. So having that much, player 5 in the back was one of the questions. But I guess Velasquez didn't have as much opportunity. So that was one plus. So now leading to the midfield. So that's I think where Oscar had a little grip as well to having 3 defensive midfielders playing.
What midfield? We don't have one. That's my question. I said that at halftime. I'm like, where is our midfield? Morales, Leuven. It doesn't matter who's there. They don't play. Like, there is no connection.
And well, the thing is, like, he's set up to defend. Like, let's be real. We were not gonna create any type of offensive play with that midfield. Morales is definitely in those 5 that they were playing on the midfield in that moment, or counting the wingers. Morales was probably the more skilled, precise, like good passing, long passing, more accuracy than anybody. And Morales is not meant to be that. Morales is to recover, pass the ball, and be done. Right? Like, just support. Durkin the same way. And then you put Wallen. Yes, he's very skillful with the ball. He's supposed to be that crazy winger that can take one-on-ones, make weird cuts like he was doing it on preseason. But something has happened, and he has been very limited on those scenarios. And I don't know if it's the tactics, is Olaf telling him, get rid of the ball, play simple. But he doesn't have that spark right now that he showed in the first 2 preseason games. And also he's playing out of position.
And I saw there was a few of those moments where he had those flair, which, one moment I was like, maybe that's his jersey that I'll be putting next. So I guess, was it maybe because the lack of not having Leuven on, or are we now don't have enough depth to, now that Leuven, we don't even know when he will be coming back? Is that where you have a little bit more of a concern of like a maestro to be able to play in the midfield?
I mean, yeah, you can always think like, okay, well, Leuven, but Leuven wasn't performing anyway, so he was not creating anything that. So talking about that, yes, like we're hurting. We're out with Tottenham, we're out with Leuven, we're out with That for me, has always been one of my favorite players. He brings spark, he brings energy to the table, and I think this team is missing that little bit of rebellion, little bit of like blood on their eyes that always shows. Like, he's always like spices things up and ready to fire up things. So that hurts. But let's move on like, hey, we're missing people. But we're not building our subs well either. So, like, we didn't have, other than putting Celio, Ostrak, and Klaus, we couldn't have anything else. Like, let's be real. Watts is good to defend, but not to create, not to get our team out of a trouble.
Yeah, and I think they're all
player.
too
We got a good players,
familiar.
but they're same style. Like, it's the same style. And then we put Zielinski, that he's not gonna have minutes. Like, they're definitely not trusting in him and put him on the right hand because they're putting everybody else but him. And then obviously Baumgartel, that it was just another center back be ready to go in when we already had six of them in the field, or five on the field, and then Baumgartel was the sixth. Um, so where is Joyner? Where is Clover? Where is the call for McSorley? Where is the call for um, Pierce? Right, and like those that they play in those positions where we're hurting right now. We were told when they bought Olaf, oh, he's magnificent promoting young talent and making them play good and bringing all the academy players. And we are struggling right now. We're letting them sit in another side.
Mm-hmm. No, and so going back, Oscar. So Alm still out. I think another 2-3 weeks probably. I think is what I've heard on him. Reed, we don't have a timetable on. He's still recovering. We're without Totland. The U22 guy from last year, Jake Gerwood Reich. Still yet to see him at all. Hopefully, Toy Shirt's back this coming weekend. But I mean, we're depleted. And to your point, there was still an open spot on the bench that Olaf didn't fill when Glover and Joyner, neither of them even started for City 2. They could have easily been pulled up and, not required a short-term loan or anything. They could have just been there. And granted, maybe the game state doesn't call for you to have either of them on, but throw them on in the midfield. Throw them on and get some more active, exciting attacking options on earlier. I mean, even in the even in the second half, you come out of the half and don't make subs for like 15 minutes. Too late. I mean, the weather delay didn't help, but I've got serious questions about not only the team selection, but also just the overall. One of the biggest things that Diego Gigliani and Lutz Pfannenstiel both said when they unveiled Melberg, he has a plan B. He'll switch. He's not afraid to do it. I'm still waiting to see it. We've stuck to this 5 in the back formation in every match, even at home. And granted, I like the idea of trying to not let in goals. Great, tighten up the back and then play forward. But at some point, you got to score to win games, right? I'm not crazy. That's how soccer works, right?
Most of the time. Yes. Yeah. So talking to those CD2 players, I guess we do know that they kind of practice. So I'm curious to see what the Kansas City game looks like. And I do see that also the CD2, if you look at their schedules, like the very beginning, it was like North Texas, it was Austin. So it was like almost like all of the playoff like teams that City was playing at the very beginning. So I'm wondering if that maybe has something to do with the playing field. But McSorley, I was really expecting him to at least be on the bench, because I think what we're missing in the midfield is like the no can do attitude. So those were the Kijima, were the he just went to Philadelphia.
Indy.
Indy. So
Don't
those
mention
guys,
that guy.
the workhorses, right? The guys that
Right.
were willing
Right.
to go for it. I think that's what's kind of missing, like the link between our defense and our forwards, is that there's not enough creation in the middle.
But how much of it is it Olaf's style though? Because Oscar, you said it. Even when it was Leuven in the midfield, he wasn't like, he's just invisible. Is that just Olaf's system? Like, I think you got to start asking that.
Yeah, and I think probably on the Leuven situation, it looks like there's a lot more than we don't really know. So I'm starting to wonder. The moment he gets a red card, and then it's personal. He's out for the personal reason, not the red card. So not trying to make too much assumption on what may happen. I'm starting to feel maybe mentally or something like that, where you can tell, especially when you're having a red card with 2 yellow cards, and one of them was kind of a questionable foul, and then you go on personal leave. So I'm starting to wonder if that may have something to do with it. But we still need someone to step up and void that space.
Yeah.
But one question I had also is, how much does that have to do with Berkey not being on the field? Because one thing, as you see, is like his clearance and how he likes to move up a lot more, pressing up. So he almost become an additional player versus where Lund, it's more of like starting from the back and slowly going up.
I mean that's a good release point for City when you have Burke in it, but I wouldn't think that because Burke is not here, then our offensive system's not working.
Yeah,
Because
and I'm not saying like
because he's a he's
not
a
the goalie
support
part.
player, but
Yeah, but not like
no,
the
he's
goalie part. So when he move up, that's when our defenders also have to push up more.
but
So
and
when
that's
our press starts much higher than when we start, pretty much on our box.
I haven't seen that this year, to be honest. I think like our pressure, like our hard pressure that we were gonna play, it's not there.
Yeah, it's not
I
there.
have
Mhm.
seen weak pressure on front. We have not won many balls on the final third. We have not like it hurts me to say, but like when we were playing with Cornell, like that was the dagger
What
for
we
the other
you were
team.
sold?
That
Yeah.
we
Yes.
was right there,
Mhm.
final third of the offensive side. We lost the ball and we recovered that really quick. That they're already in there and the defenders are not in a good position. Now we pressure with 2 or 3. We never get the ball. You gotta trail back and then just go away. That type of pressure, and then we're relying more in defensive structure to cut a pass or cut the crosses, and then leave with the ball. But there's no connection on the passes. It doesn't matter who's playing in the midfield. There's no creativity. The moments that Hartel gets the ball, he's by himself by 20 yards around. So
Mhm.
it's impossible for him to really do something. Um, I don't like that our system is playing a lot of players in the wrong places, not give them the freedom to express themselves the way they used to because they have to perform in the defensive side. That's how I see it. I think they have been told do not leave the defensive position um disprotected, or like if you go up you better be back when you lose the ball or we lose the ball. Like do not leave space behind it. And you can see it on their mentality. Like Wallem has been um invisible in the front end
Yes.
until the last 20 minutes of this game.
And that was
Well,
fire. Um,
go ahead,
so I
Mo.
think, and sorry, also, I think I was looking at the wrong chat, but looks like we have a few questions. We probably will have to circle back on there, and then after that, Jeremy will go on you. So for how long Holmes is out? So I think we don't have a time. We have not received a timeline on when he's expected. Um, so I think maybe that will be one of the questions we'll ask during one of the pressers, and maybe if they have an answer for us.
So I think they said it was a month, the last I heard, and that was 2 weeks ago. So probably 2 to 3 more weeks, if you're just
Unless
kind of playing that time, unless it's changed. But that's what I would think. And then that doesn't, he's not going to come back and play a full 90 right away.
No, he probably will want to, but
Oh,
the physio will tell him you get your 60 first.
well, for as long as it's taking Celio to get meaningful game time, I'm not holding my breath about Ulm getting in soon either.
Yeah, but he has connections.
That's true.
Carly, thanks for the question. Also, panic. Is it time to panic just yet? With 6 games into the season. So Carly, we'll probably will save that questions because it's going to be a very loaded one. So what I'm thinking we'll do is we'll save that one for once we get all the way to our forwards, and I think that's where we can start talking about panicking. Fair? All right, and
We can
also
call it differently.
I I have the PG mindset, so I will keep
Right,
it
right.
at that one. And Bakari, he's the one that was giving the assist. So, yes, he definitely. I'm sure Nielsen is having nightmare about that guy, which we probably
Well,
will all.
did he leave his pocket yet?
Don't think so.
I know they're back to Austin, so they're good.
He might just in TSA probably had to empty his pocket. It's like, oh, Nielsen, what are you doing over here?
But that's what happens, right? When sometimes you bring a player that dribbles as much, and then a player that's more, I guess, structured differently, defensively. and you know that's probably
Well,
what we're lacking of.
it was a good mismatch. It was a really good mismatch for Austin, and Bukhari really tested Nilsson. He wasn't. He's not the fastest guy anyway, so that didn't shock me. Oscar, you said one thing though before we went to the questions, and I
Yes.
want to go back to that just real quick. One thing I picked up on is, you mentioned it's the we're not brave. We don't have guys making runs. It's the number of time I lost count the number of times I would watch. We'd get the ball like out wide to say to Vollum or even to Horn, and we'd have Durkin or somebody or even Betcher in the first half charging forward into space, calling for a through ball, and they wouldn't even glance forward. They'd just stop and pass it right back. And I'm like, why? Play it through. There's a lane for a pass. Have him run into space. And that's what's going to move the defense to create more lanes for guys like Hartle to come in on the backside, or even Durkin, who will put it into the bleachers. But it doesn't matter. We don't do it. We pass it back instead. And by that point, what are we doing? Nothing. It's
This is
frustrating.
a perfect
Yeah.
segue to the comment from Daniel. He says,
Right.
"So why the heck does Durkin seems to lead the attack of all players?" Jeremy,
Yeah.
there you have it.
I mean,
Because he thinks he's a box-to-box midfielder, and apparently that's how Olaf wants to use him. I don't know. We went into the season, or at least I did,
Mhm.
thinking Durkin was going to be that stay-at-home defender, that 6, or the 8, and we were going to have the 6. He'd be the 6, and Leuven
6,
would play
yeah.
more the box-to-box, the playmaker, right? It
Yeah.
seems to be the opposite. Durkin gets to be that free-ranging guy, and I don't, for the life of me, get it. He's not a great distributor. He doesn't have a great shot. I don't know. I
Well,
really don't get it.
He has a great shot because
I
he
mean,
has
yeah,
one
Miami
on record.
disagree.
Okay,
Yes,
he had
Miami
one.
disagree on that.
yeah,
Okay, he
he's
had
in
one-
Miami's head.
Okay, Miami. Okay, I'll give you
No,
that.
it's good. I mean, it's so good. I mean, it's definitely. I can see Durkin being an eight player, but you have to have a solid 6.
Yeah,
And that's that. There's a lot of things that they're failing in that midfield, and it's like I keep going back and saying we're playing players out of position. We're playing players out of position. We're giving tasks to these players that they're not their strongest. Lewin's not creating much because one, yes, he's playing the number 6 when he shouldn't. I have never thought that Lewin was gonna be a number 6, and not even an 8. I think for me, when I first saw him on the first year, was hello Charlie.
Yeah. Here he is.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
hey
can.
Charlie.
Sorry for being late,
Um,
y'all.
Unacceptable. You're gonna have to run 15 laps next time we see you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
buy us
anyway,
dinner.
so when I first saw Lewin, I thought he was gonna be our number 10. Like not just in the jersey, as more of as a creative player. And the more I see him, I want to give him less responsibility on defensive and more on the attacking. But seems like coach after coach, we keep losing that. We're bringing Lewin back and back more. Uh, Durkin, I can see him playing an 8 when you have a solid person behind that doesn't make him go back and track as long when we lose the ball. And then when we have support in the attack, when he creates spaces. I remember last year when he was running a lot more in the front. He sometimes was not getting the ball, but he was creating that space, getting a defender busy, just following him and leaving some space for other more talented players with the ball to create something. So it doesn't hurt when um, a player like this that you're not as skillful with the ball, or he might get lucky with a shot or anything. But if he creates the spaces for other people to do, and that's one thing that we're not doing right now. We have Betcher that is invisible in the field when he's playing by himself up there. I don't blame him, but at the same time, it has been invisible.
Mhm.
When Twitcher was playing up front with Betcher or kind of like separate him, they were both invisible too because they're not strong players to hold the ball, to force a defender to be concerned that he's going to win the ball, he's going to hold the ball and let the attacking move. We don't do that. We send the ball, we lose it, our midfielder never move up.
All right. So yes. So now that we have Charlie that just joined too. So Charlie, pretty much what we're doing is starting from Ben and moving all up to our forwards or forward for the first 75 minutes. So I think we'll probably go back and continue with the first our forwards. And then after that, we'll have the stats from Charlie, and I'm sure Jeremy will
Yeah.
have some to share as well. So like you mentioned, Oscar, we first it was Betcher as our sole forward, a little bit quiet, no service. So what is your take on some of the comments that we saw that they were begging to have Klaus? Pretty much at halftime, they were asking to have Klaus back.
I mean, you want my opinion? This is the third time that I've been saying this. I love Betcher. I love his energy, but he's a 20-minute player. He's a
The way he
last
runs.
20-minute player. He's not a star forward. He's not getting any of the center backs concerned about anything. He's just trying to win a ball, trying to create space, but other than that, like he's not even like when he gets touches on the ball, he loses the ball right away. And to release pressure and in the team and the style of playing that we are doing, that is in like dump the ball and try to go up because that's what we're doing. You need a strong number 9, and at this point, like who we have, Klaus. I'm not saying that Klaus is in a great moment and he's gonna lead us to victories every day, but he's gonna release more pressure. I mean, you saw what happened in the second half when he got in. Obviously, Austin sat back a little bit, but he got people concerned. He had 2-3 on them all the time. Like they were hugging him, grabbing him, like not like at least that. But with Betcher, it doesn't happen. So they're not concerned at all. So I don't see that happening. I hope that at this moment that in Kansas City, Klaus, he always gets fired up with Kansas City. He normally has good performances, and that he's gonna be the one starting. So for me, it should be that. And let's bring Mike Sorley on the bench if we are lacking of someone to have that extra forward. He's another type number 9 that he likes to be aggressive with the defenders and bump them and try to hold them back. So that could be a good option there.
Oh yes, and I will save that because I think we'll have a soft lineup from you guys for the Kansas City, but I'm sure we'll have quite a few differences. But I like to see a little bit of Brazilian flair. Not to go too deep into that. So, Jeremy, your
Yes, sir.
thoughts?
So thoughts on Klaus? I don't understand what he's
Betcher
and the whole striker situation.
Yes.
So you said stats. I'm going to lead with a stat.
Uh,
Timo Baumgartel had more XG or expected goals than Simon Betcher. That tells you all you need to know about Simon being invisible, to Oscar's point, right? But
was it more because of the timing?
Well, I mean, at that point, we're throwing bodies forward. He was in better situations. So it's not a reflection of Betcher's play.
Yes.
It's the game state. But no, the last 2 weeks we've needed a hold up striker. Klaus in 2024. So there's again, I'm not going to get in the weeds with it, but stat wise, there's a metric called goals added or G+. One of the things that's a part of that is receiving passes and the ability to receive balls. João Klaus was in the top 1% of players in receiving. So what does that mean? Throw it to him, let him hold it up, and let the guys under him, Toyshirt, Hartle, Pompeu, doesn't matter. Let them make those runs under him, and he'll lay it off, and then they can link up and transition through the middle instead of building up predictably through the width every time, because that's what we're playing. Olaf wants to say, I don't want to be predictable, but unfortunately, kind of feel like we are. But anyway, I want more Klaus. I'm just going to leave it at that. I want to see more Klaus.
I'm not usually a stat guy, but I like that one because that type of play got France a World Cup, so I'm not complaining.
Can't do anything for LAFC though.
Yeah, I mean, with this attack, what were you saying, Mo? Go ahead.
Sorry, Mo.
No bashing of my countrymen.
Anyway,
We'll put it that way.
my fault.
Yeah, I mean, with this attack right now, I mean, 4 out of the 6 games you played, you have not scored. That's not how you're going to make the playoffs. That's not how you're going to win games. And that's especially what the sentiment has been around the club, is that they want to make the playoffs and they want to win games. One big thing I saw is, of course, like I think Oscar said, of course they sat back. It was either Oscar or Jeremy that said, they sat back, but then they had more chances once Klaus came on, right? I think a lot of the big things about that too is Celio Pompeu. If you look at that left side, Celio Pompeu was the route to almost every attack in that smothering 10 minutes of, I would say, just back to back chances that never amounted to anything. You had a couple balls in the 6-yard box that you're looking at like really, really close. Everyone gets on their feet for it, and it doesn't work out. It's just stuck under someone's feet. But eventually, those are the type of plays you're going to need to get. And with a guy like Celio Pompeu, especially with a guy like Jay Reed coming back soon, and Rasmus Alm, I mean, there's more pieces and there's more puzzle pieces available to Olaf Milberg. And I think that's one big thing he's seen so far is just lack of offensive production. And I know that Olaf is not a dumb person. Olaf has common sense, and he has known the game. He's played the game. He's coached the game for his whole life. And he knows what to expect from this squad if you're going to keep putting out Betcher, Hartel, and they had Vollum on the left wing last game to start. I mean, you're not going to make the playoffs like that. And one thing I think that will boost this team is Celio Pompeu. He brings a spark. Mo was talking about the Brazilian flair that you see from Celio. I really think that he's your key to winning games here, is because, I mean, before he got injured, he was electric last year. In the preseason, he looked really good. I mean, he is a guy, as soon as he came into the game, the first thing he did when he gets the ball is he takes it, he goes to the left, he gets past 2 people. So he's got 2 people on him. Basically, he's here. He got 2 people on either side of him. He goes around one of the people and gets a cross in. So now you have two Austin players are out of the play. So instead of saying so now theoretically, if everyone's in the box, it's a 10-on-9, and that's good odds, in my opinion. I think if you have an outnumbering of players, that's a great thing. So if Celio Pompeu can beat 2 guys on a cross, then you have extra chances offensively. When you have a guy like João Klaus who's actually rolling, he hasn't scored in over 20 MLS games. It's true. That's a fact. But you look at the time he's had in those games. This season he really hasn't been given the chance to score. In the games that he has played, he hasn't had as many crosses as there were today, or not today, yesterday. And I think
you're very kind when you say crosses. They only reach the first defender.
There's crosses, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So-
When he reaches the first defender and gets cleared, I almost don't consider those. But sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
No, I was just say 7 of 45 on crosses for the night, guys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I wouldn't even consider those crosses because he does not pass the first defender.
Right. I got a couple questions, Charlie. What's the common sense of playing 5 center backs and 2 defensive midfielders and 1 left winger playing as a center mid? What was the common sense of that? Because I do not see any of that. It
puzzled me.
You're saying that Olaf is very smart, but I don't see any smart out of that. I know he played all his life, but
it puzzled me.
He's a center back. He was a center back. He was not a player that, and you can see it right now. He has no idea how to create offensive play. He said he keeps working on trying to get the ball possession better. It's 6 games. We have no possession. We have not creativity up front. And the last piece of evidence is you put 8 defensive players in a home game. What was the common sense of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was perplexed by that. I showed it to Mo to my left, talking about 5 center backs. I put a GIF on X that's that one Simpsons guy going like this, and he's at the movie theater, inspecting. It's like, what is what's the play here? I was perplexed by it. A lot of people were. I guarantee some of the players were. When you look at, you see 4 of your teammates, then you're a center back. You see 4 of the center backs on the sheet. It's like, oh, I'm kicking my feet up tonight. I'm not doing anything. And then you see your name on the sheet. You're like, what is going on? I asked Olaf about it, and then in an alternate universe, would he have started Celio Pompeu tonight? And he said if Celio, if I think that Celio has 100% fit, or I think that another offensive player has a better chance, I think in retrospect I would have started Celio, is what he said. He said he had a lot of chances on the width of the field, a lot of wide crosses. 40 of them to be, and 40 cross attempts, which is fair, but in retrospect, 5 of those being completed is not good. So it perplexed me. I think you're exactly right, Oscar, with the defensive mindedness, and that's something that only time will tell if he gets better offensively managing the game, and that's something that's on him. But also, I think if you can start a guy like Tomas Ostrak, he's a great transitional piece. If you're going to be able to sit back into a low block almost all game, which is what they did versus San Diego, what they did versus Philadelphia. I mean, if you're going to sit down and weather the storm and get less than 30% possession in some of these games, then you're going to have a good counterattack. To talk about possession, CDSC had 56% possession against Austin, and it didn't feel like it because they did nothing with it. It's the side-to-side passes, the back and forth. We talk about this every single week like clockwork on Mondays. We're always talking about how these aren't materializing into chances. And when they are, they're not quality chances. I also talked to Melberg about the shots. And he said, yes, we need to take more quality shots. That's something I said. Because you had 30 touches inside Austin's penalty area and 2 shots on goal. And that's not acceptable. You're not going to win games like that, especially against a goalie like Brad Stuver, who is not going to let in a stinker. You're going to have to beat him straight up. And they just didn't. Plain and simple, they just did not. And that is something that is absolutely needed for this team to succeed, and only time will tell whether that will happen or not.
Okay, another question. If they're saying Celio and Ostrak are not ready to play a full game, why not start them, play 45, and then have another player play another 45?
I'm asking the same question.
Do you want to be trailing the games all the time, or you want to start winning and then be able to sit back and be strong in defense? Because
it's exactly what I'm thinking.
45 is okay. Like I think like he can be a starter, and Celio can give you, and you tell him like, hey, I'm gonna give you 45. You're gonna be the first 45, and I think a player will definitely be like, okay, well, I'm gonna be 45. I'm gonna give everything on my 45s. And then be done
until the physio says otherwise.
Well, he did that. He did that with Toyshirt, and when Toyshirt came back, the very first game Toyshirt came back from this season after getting his green card, he played the first half and subbed him out at the break. So it's something he's done before. I don't know why he doesn't do that here. And to your point, Oscar, play the guys, get on the front foot early, especially at home. That's my biggest problem. Why are we playing so defensive at home? The MLS has historically always been a league where winning away is hard. We should be turning Energizer Park into a fortress, and we don't, and I don't get it. Someone help me understand. I don't get it. What was it? Someone threw in the chat. I want to ask all of you guys that question. Do we need time or do we need to give Olaf more time? Is it too early to be having these conversations and being so critical? Are our expectations for this system being implemented in a way that's positive something that we're expecting to happen too soon?
So yes,
I posted about it earlier.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mo.
Oh, no, go ahead. I like to hear what you say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I posted about it earlier, just talking about how the Olaf out hashtag Olaf out movement was so stupid, and how it's crazy to jump to conclusions because we could sit on the outside and say this isn't the production we want. We're 6 games in now? I think 6. Is that correct? 6 games?
Yes, we're 6.
There's 34 in the season. That is a lot more games to play. And Olaf Milberg has a lot more to show City fans, in my opinion. And we're not just talking about, this isn't Football Manager 24. You're not talking about switching a name out. You're talking about someone maybe moving to another country, moving back to Switzerland to coach again. That's a huge change to be able to uproot someone's livelihood because they get a draw 1-0 against Austin. A good attacking team is crazy to me. I think, it's good to have these conversations. We're here for a reason, right? We're here as fans. It's similar to voters when you think about it. We are fans, or you think about the voters. You're going to hold your people in power to a standard, and you're going to criticize them as much as you can, even, especially if you are, rooting for them, right? Because you want to see them succeed. We're not here saying, we need to do these things because we want City to lose. These are all for things that we want City to be better. And that it all comes from a place of passion. But I think the way that sometimes people portray it can be a little harmful, and that's all right. That happens. That's the MLS. That's any pro sports league for you. But I think it's amazing to have these conversations right now because they need to happen. You can't sweep things under the rug. This has to be a transparent operation. We can't have things happening like they did in 2024.
Yeah. So, and I think my question, I guess, for you, when they're saying time, is it because of all of time, or he's out, or time to kind of put his philosophy to the players? Because what people kind of tend to forget also on the world of football or soccer is that when a new manager come in, sometimes he still have to figure out what he started with. And it's not like in Europe where a coach says, if you hire me, this is the budget I need, and this is are the players that I already know I want, and they're coming with me, right? So in MLS, you kind of almost have to deal with the players, and we still have a lot of players injured, but we only allow 2 goals. If we were losing, 3-4-0 or 4-1 or such, I probably would have been a little bit more concerned because we have a manager that is a defender by heart. And I think I brought this up on the last conversation, is that in other places, when a coach is good at a certain position, they also have their staff that is, the free kick expert, the forward expert. So I don't know if they're still working on those kinks. I just see a lot of, there's still a lot of pieces that are moving before we even say out. Carnell was out without having a chance to complete what, he had a lot of things against him. So, and they were not happy for him to be out. So 6 games into it, I think it's a little ludicrous to talk about him being out.
Mm-hmm.
No.
The performance is bad. We're not scoring as many goals, but we're also not getting cluttered with goals as well.
So, my opinion, I would never ask for Olaf to be out. Like, it's 6 games. It's been 3 or 4
and allowing
months
2
in
goals.
charge, allowing 2 goals. The defensive strength is there. The goals are been or either like a very good goal from the other team or like a corner, like it's just a small distractions that it happens in soccer. So I'm not concerned about the defense, and he has improved the defense a lot. But something has to click, and I don't even know if it's just Olaf itself that it needs to click in that system. Obviously, you have to involve the players, but also what I am concerned is that this is our 5th year with Lutz, because we got 3 of the MLS, but we also had 2 prior for him to build the team. And what's our problem in common in every year? Which one do you think it is?
Scoring.
Consistent scoring.
No.
Defense.
Death.
Death.
Yeah.
We get We get 2 or 3 players injured, and we are struggling. We always struggle.
But it looks like that's like an MLS thing.
But who's building that team? Because it's not like in Europe and everything that you were saying that coaches kind of go in and say like, I need this player, I need this player, I need this player. Here is whatever Lutz wants.
Mm-hmm.
And to this point, we don't have enough. And I keep saying we don't have enough. We don't have spark in the front. Like the only one that brings a flair in our entire squad is Celio. The only one who brings rebellion in our entire squad is Alm. The rest are tactic players that they like to do and play the way that they like. Teucher is a tactical player. He's not super skillful. He finds the places to be free to score goals. He makes good runs. But you would not see him doing a scissors move or whatever you want to name. Like I don't know the names in English. I can tell you all in Spanish, but
Just throw it out.
So
then you have Hartel that he can do some flicks and flares, but not all of them are super effective. He did a good Rabona in the game, and he almost created something in the area. So I mean, Hartel is our different player right now, but I think we need more of that. It's just a lack of that, and I think like if we're gonna start blaming something, we have to blame Lutz. And here, it's 3 months in charge. He has a lot way to go.
So here's what I'll say. As a Manchester United fan, I have firsthand watched for a decade.
Don't you dare say that name around here.
What a all right, you can go back to Stamford Bridge and leave me alone.
We feel sorry for you, Jeremy.
Editing.
My point is, I've watched a coaching carousel for a decade and watched United slide down to the bottom depths of the Premier League table. We don't need our club in St. Louis to become that. We don't need it. We need stability, and we need a clear direction. And I'm fine giving him time. I've watched Amarim need time at United this season. Olaf needs time to figure out how to use his players in his system. Maybe that's what we need. I think my frustration is I just want to see some progress outside of the defense. We know the defense is fine now. At least I think it is. I just now want to let us build on that and put other things in place to get the other side and get a little bit of balance on this. Get me some goals, or at least a real consistent threat of goals, because 17 shots, 1.1 expected goals just doesn't get me excited, especially at home against an Austin FC team that, to put it frankly, they out-cityed us. They did what we do, and they did it better in our park.
Oh, they're great defensively. I think I was saying with Goals TV that they were the second best. City was the best defensive team, and I think we still are. Hey, look at that South End Supporters podcast. Thanks for joining us, guys. And
yeah,
I think they were recording today too. So
yeah, they were.
Yeah,
I listened. It was amazing.
Oh,
I mean, some of the things.
I love what South End supporters are saying right there. Yeah, definitely. Like we were looking into, we had a good depth, but now we're showing that we're not at a structure. But at the same time, yes, 6-7 players now, and the question of fitness, that has been a question for me all 3 years. Too many injuries with their muscle injuries that they're not. I mean, obviously we take out the Ostrak and Celio last year, but that there's too many of fitness. Like it's like always muscles, always hamstrings, always. I believe like Horn went out with a groin injury yesterday. So like, what are we doing? So like we thought it was because Carnell was overworking them, and then that Hackwork was just doing the same thing, or just lower the charges a little bit, but we were still getting some injuries. And now all of us having the same problems. We got 2 hamstrings, now 1 groin.
It's going to get worse too, because Horn went out with an injury, Morales did, and so did Durkin. And Durkin's
gone too.
And Tots is already out, but I'm saying from just the game against Austin, and Durkin's looked like it was just a non-contact. He just went down, it looked like. So I'm just to your point, guys, depth. I'm worried about our depth right now.
Yeah, and I think for the depth,
one of the things that I've seen. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've seen so far is just like, I don't know. It's tough for this team to just click. It feels like sometimes the other teams have more chemistry, and that they are almost tethered by ropes in their mind. They can read each other's minds almost, it feels like. I watched the City 2 game. I went down to the stands, sat in the first row for the City 2 game. It was very nice. Got some great work done, got some great pictures and everything like that. There was no post game for that, sadly. But, I mean, the connection that those guys have is awesome, because some of those guys have played with each other since U16, U17, U18, U19. Whether it be, I think City 2 has, or City Academy has U19, U16, U15, I believe, and 14, yeah. But whether it be at City or other places, a lot of these players have played with each other before, and that you see a big shift in chemistry. You're talking about knowing a system really, really well, and then knowing your teammates really, really well, so you can fit into that system. That's one thing I think they've struggled with this season, City. You have players like Edward Leuven, Shaw Klaus, Celio Pompeu, Chris Durkin, Nilsson, Totland, Berkey. They've been here since the start, right? But when you're talking about guys like Alfredo Morales, Ostrak's been here since the start also, but this is his first game back. A second game, I think he subbed on for another one. But when you have Hartel, Toy Shirt, Betcher, even Giannis Horn at points, the transition game can get sloppy because sometimes these guys are just having a mental disconnect between the style of soccer they want to play and the style of soccer that Olaf has implemented. And that's just a big thing that is going to be a growing pain. It's a big thing that might be more than a growing pain. That's something we will see as the season commences. Is the transition going to get better? Is the counterattack going to get better, right? And if it doesn't, then you have cause for concern. But if it does, then you're looking at a low block or a mid block as a team, and then you're going for a counterattack. And that will work perfectly. If you're actually scoring goals. Like I'm saying, if the transition game can be solid, because his defense has showed it's been amazing. Benjamin Lund has been amazing so far. 2 goals in 3 games he started. You cannot ask for more from Benjamin Lund. But you can ask for more production on that offensive side, and we all are. And I think it starts with a transitional game. And I think one player that can help with that is Celio Pompeu.
Yeah. And I would love to have Celio, but I think, are we going to put him in the middle?
I'd put him on the left wing.
Because if he stays in the flanks, then yes, he will be like a big component of like the offense, but he will still be just on one side. So I guess the biggest question is who?
I think if you start Celio, then I think honestly Celio Pompeu has so much impact on this team that if you can start 7 defensive players or you can start 8 defensive players. Like you did against Austin, and you can still have offensive production. You're just not seeing the amount of chances.
You will burn out, though.
No,
it's possible, but I'm saying that I think Celio Pompeu, you need something new in this system. You need something that is proven. You need something that so Celio's recovery is supposed to be was estimated at 9 months after his surgery. It has been 8.5 months since his injury. So he's not going to be at tip-top fitness until probably mid-season when it starts to get really, really hot at Energizer Park. But I think a big thing will be the transition game. And if you can get that down, even with defensive players, then I think that's a huge, huge plus.
Charlie, but the thing is like our problem is not that last third. Because if we get the ball in good positions with players in good positions in the last third, we can create things. And that's what happened against Colorado. We were actually a good transition game where the flanks were open. Totland had a lot of space in that game. I don't recall who was on the left. I think it was Horn that was on that left wing. They both had pretty good spaces because the transition was good. But since that game, we have not had that. And you mentioned the transition game. Where does it start? With Lewin, with Durkin, with Wads, with Alfredo. And you know who did the best job so far? I was pulling the stats. Thomas Ostrak had 24 passes. He got 23 good passes. He missed 1 pass. And if you look how he was moving, the way that he was asking for the ball, trying to find a good speed in the ball, in the move of the ball, he was the player creating that space for Celio and Wallen on the left to be able to create stuff over there. But started on the back. And there's the players that they're not doing that. When I think Jeremy was saying that sometimes the midfield gets the ball, and instead of looking for that pass in the front, they always look for the side or back. Watts loves his back passes. I love him. I love my team, and but these players that they're afraid to turn around and try to risk a pass in the front don't help much. So it's like, Watts always passes back.
Mhm.
If he tries to pass forward, he sends it to the bleachers. Um, Durkin tries to dribble or try to send a ball long, and he sends it to the bleachers again. So Lewin can do long balls, but he's playing very slow. And let's just say that let's not count Lewin for the next 2-3 games. So Alfredo is good, but he needs time to adjust to adapt to a new team, and also that I believe he was not playing too much the last season. So like he still gotta get that repetition of game speed and likeness. But um Ostrak came in like he never left. And that's where I say if he's good for 45 minutes, put him in my first 45 minutes.
All right. So if you had to pick now for who will be your number 10 then? For
I mean, I would still put Hartel and Toicher together and have that backup of Ostrak bringing the ball to them, excuse me, getting that play started. One of the good things that we did the first year in our midfield was when we had Ostrak, Indy, and Lewin. And the speed of play that those three had in those moments, they were moving the ball so quick that like players were not even being able to pass the first or the second ball. They had to retract and go to the third ball because they couldn't keep up with that quick moving of passing. Now our speed of passing is so slow. The team, like the defensive team, is just jogging. I know they're gonna flip it this way. Now they're gonna go in the other way. There's no that quick 1-2s. There's no aggressive pass between the lines. And Ostrak brought that yesterday. He changed it. He gave balls to Hibbert on the right. He went and gave balls to Wallem to connect with Celio. Give balls even to Hartel that he was under pressure and still give it to him. Got a quick turn, and we started to create something in the middle too. So that's what we need. But we need more of that, and Hartel needs help. You cannot just send him and have him lost in the middle because he's not Messi. I'm sorry for the people that don't like Messi, but he's not Messi. He's good. He's good, but he's not Messi. So he needs help. He needs help to create spaces or to support him to do a 1-2s.
All right, so Jeremy will just give you that one, and then after that, Charlie stats.
So just
yeah.
one. Go ahead. No, so just one quick question. Jeremy. One quick question. So, you talk about formation. You talk about what we need. We have depth problems, guys. We're sitting on. I think at last time I heard or saw a number out there somewhere in the ballpark of like $2 million in GAM. We still have to do something with. The transfer window is open till the end of April. What will we do? Will we spend it? I mean, I feel like if there's a time to make a move, we kind of have a sense after 6-7 games what we might need. Is there something out there to be done to make this team tick and help that transition game?
Josh Sargent.
No, don't.
I think he cost more than $2 million, Charlie.
Charlie.
I think you were out for like 10 million.
He's a St. Louis kid.
Charlie, do not start. Do not. We get enough hatred from the U.S. national fans. Let's not add Sargent here, because you've seen Twitter, and we've all seen Twitter. Why is he working with Norwich? He's scoring, but he will not score for us. We do not want to have St. Louis added to that question. And plus, he's way too expensive.
I just think we change formation. I think it's not play two strikers, play Klaus up top, and play 2 10s, if you want to call him that, underneath him. That's what my move is.
I feel like Toicher, when he's in there, like he gets lost when he gets up on a striker because he gets referenced really easy. He needs more like starting from behind, get space, find the runner behind the defenders, and also connecting to Hartel. So yes, I totally agree. We don't need 2 forwards. We need a defensive creative zone in the middle, and Toicher and Hartel, I think they connect well. So yes. And yes, I 100% agree. We need Latinos. We need someone that sparks that flair. or has that aggressiveness that this none of these players have. Like I haven't seen a rebellion, like someone going to a tackle because you're pissed off and they're losing. So
I thought you guys didn't want those type of players because
Two words.
we've had a
well,
few of
I mean,
those.
who?
Two words. Celio Pompeu. Hear me
Charlie,
out.
Charlie,
Yeah, I mean, we already
Charlie,
talked about
Charlie,
Celio. I know
Who-
Celio needs to start next game. I
Charlie,
said Celio
Charlie.
needs to start. Ostrak needs to start, but then what?
Celio needs
Uh,
another Celio if you want the type of offensive that you're asking
Mhm.
for. Because yes, he will take two players with him, but then what else?
yeah.
You
I
know,
would like
I
to
had
have
a
the
theory
chat.
that
I
I
would like to have the chat
yeah
if they have a player in mind where
yeah
that it could be available. They could, or even like not available, but that it's in the league that is between the 2 million game type scenario. Like if they have any idea or something. When we started the season, I said, for example, that San Diego took Chichorango and took Martinez. I would have loved to have one of those, either or. I think that would be a good thing. A player like White in Vancouver, I think he's very talented, and even the guy in Vancouver as well that feeds the ball to White.
Oh, Gold.
Um,
yeah.
Gold. Yep.
You know, I was just gonna say real quick. You know, one player that I think could have a lot of those chances. I've heard some theories. I talked to Drew Young about it. Drew Young,
Don't say Celio.
he's a producer. No, I will not say Celio. It's with those crosses from that player that I won't talk about. That maybe that's the reason why Shaw Klaus maybe has a lack of a little bit of hair right here. I'm not sure. There's a lot of headers coming in crosswise, and there might be some correlation between the amount of headers he's had in his lifetime and the amount of hair follicles he has in the front of his head. Only time will tell with that. But I mean, for me, I agree 100%. Let's bring it back up. I'm not going to say what that acronym is. There's actually a belt for it in the UFC. Just saying, speaking of UFC, there's a UFC fighter named Merab Dvalishvili who I've heard can play soccer pretty well. Let's get him over here. Maybe get an open tryout or something. That I'm just kidding around. But you know, that is something you need. You need aggression, you need passion. And I think that's one big thing. I do have to head out. I'll give my score prediction real quick for Sporting. It will be the game
5-0.
in Kansas City. I'm going 6-0. I am going 6-0 City win. I am going Leuven 3 goals. I'm going Leuven hat trick. I'm going Betcher brace, and I'm gonna say that Benjamin Leuven scores a goalie goal. You never know. I'm going for it. It would be awesome to see Vermes back in. Bring him back. He's not done. Okay, I'm telling you. If Sporting loses this game, bring Vermes back in.
If I didn't want to break
They
my
don't know.
mic, I would have said mic drop for that one.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Headphone drop.
your TikTok. That's everything that makes us
There you go.
go.
I will clip it.
Adios.
All right. Good studies.
Charlie.
So a 6-0.
Charlie.
Hey, I have to say, if Betcher scores, he's from Kansas. Will they take his Kansas thing out? But I guess we'll probably keep that prediction out of the question for the end.
Yeah. Let's just
Yes.
move on that. I mean, he also mentioned Lewin, and I mean, we all know Lewin's not gonna play. So yeah, I mean, I love his positivism and being excited about it. Like, yes, we need a win over there. We need a win in the mall.
better.
But other than that, I think whenever we want to move to that topic, I think it's gonna be one of the hardest game in the season yet. Adding to what just happened today, but I was looking at a player that I would love to have him, not because he would destroy defenders or anything like that, but more because of his experience in the MLS, and he's a free agent right now.
Oh,
Raul Rui Diaz
Mm-hmm.
it's
from Peru,
Seattle.
ex Sounders.
Okay, yep.
He was very good in the Seattle Sounders for years and years. Yes, he's old. He's 34 years old. Well, I mean, for
Yeah,
soccer. For
Yeah,
soccer.
yeah.
yeah,
I just turned
we'll give you that.
36 on Saturday, so yes. I turned 36 on Saturday, and I'm not old, but for soccer environment, yeah, he's
Yeah.
older there. But I think like he could be a player that would bring a lot to the table. He's free.
He would come on a free. It fits the Lutz profile. He comes on a free.
Well, he's not German, so he doesn't
Well,
fit
that
the profile.
he's half. He's half. Okay, fine. He's half. We'll give him the half because he's free. But man, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I
don't
like the shout though. I like the shout. It's creative. It's outside the box. But do we? Here's what. Hold on. So do we know? I don't. He played in Seattle long enough. You would think he might have his green card.
Oh yeah, I think he covered. I think he cleared
A
that
long time ago.
Yeah.
So we don't need an
I mean,
international
we
slot.
do
but
have
we'd
international spot available too.
We do.
but
yes.
we'd have to also have a roster spot. I don't think we have one open. So we'd have to buy somebody out, right? Or something, right? Am I crazy on that? Thinking about roster mechanisms. I know you can
But
buy
I
two
do
guys
think
out
we
now.
have. I think we have a spot available too for the roster too.
Okay, all
I
right.
thought we had one left
Because we had some players on loans. I think that
Yeah.
opens up. I'm not an expert on the roster stuff.
No,
either, but
I thought Morales was the final piece, but I could be off on my stuff. So, but either way, I like the idea. I mean, it's a guy who's dynamic in the attack and can link up play. He doesn't have to be a game breaker, but we don't have game breakers off the bench. And I wish that our academy was more developed so that we had those youth guys ready to come up and make that impact like, a Philadelphia used to do years ago when their academy was throwing out top tier prospects.
Yeah, they just have
yeah,
one.
I mean, we do have someone that they should be getting involved a little bit more. But I don't know what's happening this year where we were bringing last year these players when our house was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That it was
True.
not the right time to bring him in. Our house is not on fire yet this season. We're starting. We have a solid team on defense. Like, let's just bring the extra things. So Clover, Joyner, like, let's get some minutes, some repetitions there, and bring something different because that's what we're missing. Someone different. Just to compliment about Rui Diaz, he still scored 8 goals last year.
Okay.
So more than our
He didn't.
striker.
He didn't have a lot of participation, a lot of minutes. He played a total of 32 games, 22 in 28 in the MLS. I'm assuming not many starting, but he still scored eight goals.
Not bad.
And
Yeah,
he's an experienced player.
Yeah, and I think the last thing of the game that kind of itched me a little bit is on the final third. If you watch, like, for example, Hartel, there was like so much hesitation to shoot the ball. So I'm wondering if it's the player that were hesitating, or that was part of their play to then look to the outside and then try to cross it back. Because I would think that, when you're a little bit more offensive, you have to have a little bit of that greediness that, when you see that goal, it's like, sorry, I have to take a shot and see what happens versus having to have 15 touches in the box just to push it back outside. And then the cross gets to the first defender. I think that's
Austin,
what
go ahead.
Drove me a little bit crazy on that.
Austin had 21 blocked shots in the game. So
yeah, but that happened towards the end of the game too. If you saw,
fair.
that was them just throwing their body in front of every shots to block it.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I mean, a few of those, like, okay, we were very close in, like the play with Celia takes on and hits the ball into the area and then like crosses.
Mm-hmm.
Klaus like mistimed the touch because that was a not a tap in, but basically if he touches the ball correctly to the goal is the goal. He just got too excited. I mean, who can blame him? He's in a scoring position and he needs to score a goal. He got in that mentality and he messed it up. But it wasn't an easy touch, so like I'm not blaming him for anything. It was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of bodies in front. So, but those were like where the defense is just panicking and just like
Yep.
like Jeremy said, throwing bodies at the ball, like making sure like you're blocking the ball with whatever it is except a handball, and that's what just happened. Um, but yeah, it's not because of we created as much. It's because now they were just sitting on their own box and
Mhm.
making sure that nothing was happening. We're just gonna block the balls. And on the shots, not taking the shots. I was gonna mention earlier that that's something that I'm kind of like hesitant to say, but I say is it part of the coaching strategy? If it's not clear to take a shot, don't take it, and kind of like getting in that mentality of like keep the ball or make it as safe as possible, but not take a risk because it comes from making passes to the back, to the side, send it back. Like it just like everything seems to be played the safe way.
Mhm.
And when we get to a even remote offensive position, to just like, oh, there was something there, but now they didn't see it. He might have seen it, but they're being told right now, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Oh yeah, that was one itchy on Mart. So do you want anything from there before we move on, Jeremy?
So it's um I think you guys have covered that shot topic really well. I think the question I had for you both was actually, Olaf said we created enough to win. We deserved to win in that game. Do you guys agree with Olaf? He
In the
he
last
said
15 minutes,
no.
probably
He said
maybe, but that one no.
I mean
And I think
yeah.
it was like two well defensive teams. So I think the thing that was missing for us to kind of try to do the counter was that Austin was also playing in defense mostly. And you can even hear their coach at the end. He's happy to win games 1-0 or 1-1 or to stay in those low scores. So I was not surprised that once they scored that one goal, they most likely was not going to try to recreate more opportunities unless City would have came back. So I think it was kind of the clash of two defensive team, but then it happened that City sat down even more than what we expected. And when you have a team that's on fire in defense, they will cover anything that does, unless it's a fraction of a second pass, they most likely will take it. And that's why I've shown where even the experts were saying, if this game, whoever is going to win this game, it's most likely going to be a low scoring game. And that's what we got. And unfortunately,
Yeah, I don't agree at all with what he said. I don't know what game he was watching. To be honest, I mean, uh, and that's I'm gonna hit that. This is my hot topic of today.
shoot it.
Now that you mention it, it's the way that our coaches just straight up lied to us game after game after bad performances, saying we were the better team. We brought it up. We did everything we could. We were just lack of the last touch to score a goal. How many times in the past 2.5 years? Because the first year was great until, well, after League's Cup got a little bit bad. But anyways, like we were not that concerned because we were already going in playoffs and stuff like that. But let's say just like this last year and this year, where every time we finish a game, everybody in the stadium leaves pissed off, leaves saying we didn't do anything, we didn't play well, we didn't create anything. And then you go and listen to the press conference, and your coach goes, yeah, we did good. We brought it in. We were the better team. We were just unlucky, and we should have run maybe two more runs. But like you see, like we had 28 shots on total. It was like, yeah, and how many of those were actually in target, or how many of those were actually risk?
Right.
That was all last year,
Mhm.
and now we're not even going to 28 shots on a game. We did a little bit more yesterday, but at the same time we only put two shots on goal, and none of them were very risky. Not one that Strober got a good hand on that one. But can we stop the rhetoric of the coaches saying the same thing over and over again, thinking like we're stupid?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing he said at the press conference. I think he answered answered multiple questions with that same kind of, we played well, the stats looked good, we did this well, we did that well. And, on another day, if the ball doesn't go into the net, does it really matter how many shots you had? I mean, I guess if you don't let up a goal, it does. But once you've conceded, if none of those shots or none of those entries get you a goal, I don't want to hear that.
So
And
should
do
we
you
ask
really
harder
deserve?
questions?
What's up, Mo?
Or maybe we should start asking harder questions. Maybe.
Well, maybe.
I mean, that's another thing. I mean, I'm not in the media, but and probably for a good reason. Because I mean, I sit and listen sometimes to the media press, and all the questions seem to be like about the same thing over and over again. Nobody wants to get their hands dirty and like put any type of pressure. And I get it; it's your profession, and some of you are getting paid, some of you are not, like all that. But it's sometimes like this needs to stop. And what is the line where it's like you're saying the same thing over and over again, nothing's changing? Yes, we started and it's only 6 games. I get it. But don't come and tell me that you dominated the game, that you created so many, because until the 80th minute we were not an attacking system.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no. So if you had 80 minutes doing nothing, you did not deserve to win the game.
I would say so.
Austin let you come to their box in the last 20 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. They let you, not you did it. And you were at home.
Yep.
With our crowd, like right in front of us, like right in front of our crowd.
So I guess one question. So that was also burning that people have brought up. So we can close out and probably give our predictions. So how do you guys feel about where do we start attacking first? Do you still prefer to go attacking the north end first, or you prefer to do that towards the end?
I like the end. I like the
of
end.
Course.
But I always thought like and even if it's just because we're supporters and we think like we can bring something into the table in a soccer game, that I do believe so. That is motivational, having you behind it. I think like you have a solid start having your goalkeeper with your supporters behind you, like making sure like you start the game solid, and you don't need as big of a push because you're fresh. You're starting the game, so you can go and push as much you can that way. And then on the second half, coming and attacking the rival with your goalkeeper that could be tired, could be under a lot of pressure. Not the defenders are getting tired, and you are as people yelling at them and screaming. That we have to do a lot better on that. And our supporters, we do chant and we do that, but we do not put pressure on the players as much. But still, like I feel that energy is needed when the body's tired, and I think attacking that end, it's more effective. And my supporter opinion.
That was the most detailed reason I got so far. So I like that part, even though I guess I sit on the other side, so I might have a different reasoning. Or maybe the South End supporters might say, you know what, they prefer the other way to start too, because that's where they sit. So I don't know, maybe we should put pressure on those South End guys to step it up. Maybe it will be even on both sides. Jeremy?
Well, I don't know if the South End wants to do what the North End does, but that notwithstanding, guys, I'm with Oscar. Let's attack the north end in the second half. Give the first half with us behind the team's back, literally, and then second half they can attack towards the north end, and maybe that noise from the north end rattles the keeper a little bit, right? Gets them in their head or something. I mean, again, to your point, Oscar, making us feel like we impact the game in some way, right? So that I'm with you. Let's attack the north end in the second half.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're a supporter, just like this is, if anybody of our audience and everything you're watching or you're gonna watch later on, like if you're going to supporters, like please go and put pressure on the players that when they're the rivals, like just go on their goalkeeper, whistle them, and like if you don't know the chance, like start whistle as loud as you can or boo him or do something. Like I'm not gonna promote any type of like insults or anything. Yeah, leave
No, the
those
proper
out.
way.
The proper way you can do it, and just like um the goal case, like something, just like there's sometimes they're so quiet when they're like having the ball on the back, like rattle them. Like we've seen people that watch soccer a lot, you see European soccer where every time a rival goalkeeper takes the ball, the entire stadium is whistling, is booing, is saying something, and saying nice things and not so nice things. But they're never quiet. So I mean, obviously, let's get a little bit more of that. I mean, in that end, I think we were a little bit naive as a supporters right now because we want to be everything that it has to be so prestige and following the rules and everything has to be clean and pretty and all that. But sometimes we just gotta put some pressure in it.
Trust me, they weren't so kind to the referees when at the end of the game, going towards the tunnel, the boos were. I unfortunately I did not record it, but I was amazed. I did not hear any referees get that hard of a boost than yesterday. So big shout
I
out
didn't
to them.
say he did that bad though.
No, but I think I think that maybe they
The
wanted to boo
frustration was there.
yes for the referees, maybe, and save the players from the
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
it
I
works.
mean, yeah.
So
Hey,
oh,
do you want to see that? I mean, the one on top, and then it
oh
says, "What was your take on Melbourne saying
oh
about the club not doing what they talk about when conceding a goal?" So I think it's just basically that there was no coverage after the first man got beat, and then it's basically that when the player took Nielsen wide and then out of play, that there was not enough support closing that gap, and that's where
Yep.
they were late to block the cross, and then because that person was late to cover that cross, the one behind it that is supposed to take the man on didn't shift quick enough to block that. So I think that's what he really meant, just that the coverage were not there, and it happens on the games. Is a moment of lack of concentration or tiredness or
just not moving fast enough
just
from the
they
Yeah.
post.
didn't move fast enough and the coverage that were they were supposed to be. So
Second week in a row he said something like that, and I just think you're right on the money. I think it's they have this plan going into a game of the way they're going to play and execute, whether it's offensively or in the midfield or defensively, and they just didn't meet those expectations. Simple as that. And I think that's just part of the way Olaf words things. I just think it's part of that stuff that gets lost in translation between your native English speakers and maybe Olaf, who's maybe new to the United States, right? I think that's just all in the phrasing.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it when we were not recording, where you can see
Mhm.
the difference between Carnell, Hack, and now Olaf, the communications and speaking. So I think that's probably part
yeah,
of it, but not to make it too much of an excuse because now the performance on the field has to reflect um, what's
well,
being
yeah,
planned
Yep.
for.
and going back to what I have mentioned so much is like if you're losing coverage with a defensive players, something's wrong
No,
in that moment. In that moment, so not in the game. In that moment,
yes.
like something happened that you had eight defensive players and nobody was able to cover the first ball or the second ball.
All right, so we'll turn it to a little bit more enjoyable discussion. So we're now going to, I guess, how you want to call that, City West, or I think we'll just send it that. But the biggest news is that Vermees is out. So the conversation was that it's not like, oh wow, he's out. The conversation is that we can't believe they did it. So how much of an impact will that have on our game? Do you think there will be a? He's pretty much a Vermees guy, so he's not really like a bounce back coach. So what do you think about the how the game will go, and give us your prediction?
Who's
Jeremy,
going
you're the
first? Oh,
guest.
I
Go
go.
ahead.
So let's now go first. All right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about the new coach. Will they get the new coach bounce? Maybe. It's a team that, well, I think they've winless in 13. They've had 12 losses and a draw. They might be up for the rivalry match, but I am going with a away win, and I'm going to say we get 2 goals at City Park West or Energizer Park West, whatever you want to call it these days. And City comes away with all 3 points in a 2-0 win.
I like it. Oscar?
I don't like it. I don't like what happened. I was really hoping it was not gonna happen. I saw the letter from the supporter section
Coltrane? Yes.
yesterday when I was back in my house after the game, and I was kind of laughing at the same time. I saw the post of the letter on one of our city groups that they're obviously more for a laugh than anything. There's a lot of complaints and things like that, and I saw that letter, and some people were, it was like, oh, these supporters, what they do, they think that they own the club or da da da, like they make the decisions and so on. So, and I was like laughing because is supporters are a big part of clubs.
Yep.
And the supporters are the one that they should put pressure on the clubs if they're not performing. That's one big task that supporters do have that people sometimes don't believe it.
Oh,
But it has
yeah,
happened. It has happened in different
LA.
teams, and one big picture is LA Galaxy.
Yes.
The moment that they reacted was after the supporters demanded changes,
Yeah.
demanded more competition. And now we'll bringing it back now to our not so kind neighbors. Um, I just don't like it because they did the right move. They did the right move as a supporters, and now the club follow it with a good move. Like they were definitely not playing well. They were a team that lack of everything. I mean, they do score goals, but they concede a lot of goals too. So they were not solid, and they didn't seem to find any ways with the coach. And I could say, hey, they are trying to get rid of the coach because players do that when they get
Yes.
tired of one system. When they do it, we, we've seen it multiple times, but um, it just always sparks that extra thing to prove that it was not you as a player, it was the coach that you didn't want to play with, or it was just not doing the job that he was supposed to do. So I hate that just happened now because always that rebound match after firing a coach is it brings a very unpredictable team to face, and playing over there knowing that the fans are very upset that they do not like anything that is happening, and obviously they're not gonna like that half of the stadium is gonna be red, and it's just sparks a lot that I didn't want to have to deal with. Like I just I wanted to be that hopeless team of Kansas City that we were just gonna destroy it and get our hype up and get finally our season going up on stream with good offensive plays and all that. But I think it's just gonna change and be again a nail biter, a stressful game where it could be a lot of goals that we normally have over there, a 2-2, a 3-3, or it could be nobody wants to give up anything on the back and just be a 0-0. So I'm very nervous, to be honest. I didn't like it, so I'm gonna say maybe a 2-1 win for us, just because I would never say I'm losing against those undesirable people. Um, I would never confess that I would say yes, we're gonna have a negative impact. No, I'm going over there thinking we need to win. It's time to win over there. Um, get our first win in the furniture mall. So and yeah, so 2-1. And I don't like to call it City Park West or anything like that, because just the reason we haven't won anything over there. So
Facts.
Fair.
So I think for me, I'm not too concerned about the change because, you know, if it was just the coach that was fired, I probably would say the nuke bounce. But we cannot forget that Sporting KC is Vermees. Everything that has to do with this club, from the players to the now GM to the stadium to the like, everything is what he built. So it's almost like they just remove one piece, but they're still the guy that he brought in. He also played for Sporting KC, so he went from player straight to assistant coach. So for me, I'm not too concerned about the bounce because they still don't have that. They have not shown that they can produce, and that he was just the coach himself. So I'm saying 3-1 City because they're feeling the heat now. City is getting the heat now of they're hearing. I can guarantee you they're listening, and they know that people were not satisfied with this performance. And this is like the perfect spark when it comes to like soccer, as you know, right? So you can have your down, start your season bad, but for example, Chelsea and Manchester United, right? When we're having a bad season, either if Manchester or City win, or sorry, not that City, but Chelsea wins, uh, you know how it can change the course of your season. So I'm hoping Sporting KC will be our change to move us forward. But
I
Vermees,
think that's what I'm
he's there.
afraid, because it's such an open game for both teams. It's I mean, if you think Kansas City, I mean, worse it can get worse if you lose against your rival, but at the same time, like it's not gonna be the end of the world at now for them, because now they're starting a new process. So like if you lose the first game of your new process, it's fine on their players' eyes, and say like, hey, we're gonna rebuild from here up. This whatever the performance they have, they'll be probably like, hey, we did good. We couldn't complete the win or whatever. Um, I think City has a lot more to lose, in my
Yep,
opinion.
I agree.
Um, City has performed well, and having to play the last place of the league, team that has no win yet. And if you don't get a good result, and a good result, I mean a win, a tie is not a good
Nope.
result, in my opinion, over there, with their situation. So
Mhm.
there's more pressure on the City side than on the Kansas City. I think it's gonna help them, in my opinion, to be more fired up and saying, "Hey, we're just gonna go and give everything that we have, and like hope for the
I-
best." They're not good. They're not great. I'm not concerned like their style of play is gonna beat us. They're not gonna outcoach us.
mm,
It's more of their fire, the inside fire, their willingness to beat your rival. Is he gonna take
mhm.
it more than what we're gonna take them?
Fair.
Well, and so I think the biggest concern I have, Oscar, you said the word depth earlier. It's just that because we don't know what Horn's status is. We aren't going to have Alm, doubtful for Leuven. Who else went down? Durkin, Morales, and Horn. So those guys on top of Jake Gerwood Reich. Not that he was going to get substantial minutes anyway, but it's a depth piece. So what do we who or what do we have to do from a City 2 perspective to even fill our bench for this game? You know, because
That's
the
gonna be
fall off
interesting.
from first team to the bench could be substantial if it's a lot of City 2 guys again. So I think that's my concern. I mean, you're looking at Sporting Kansas. They've scored 6, allowed 12 goals this year. So I'm not super concerned about their defense. And maybe this is the game to get our offense right, but depth is what I'm afraid of.
All right, so we have a 2-0, we have a 2-1,
2-1. Yep.
and we have a 3-1. So we're still conservative, you know. Charlie said 6-0, so I will
He
take that
called
as
for a Loon. He called for a Ben Luton goal.
Yeah.
if he does it,
So
those screams will be heard
You know,
from there all the way to St. Louis.
so let's see a little bit. So Sporting Kansas City has scored in every game but one. That it was LAFC.
mhm.
It faced San Jose, DC United, tied with Minnesota, and lost to FC Dallas. The Minnesota one was a crazy one where they scored 3 goals coming back. But that just shows like they're gonna find a way to score a goal. They're like that cheapy team that it just
Mhm.
gets the goal here. However, they find it. They find one goal. They can give you up goals, but then the problem is we have scored in 2 of our 6 games.
Right.
So
True.
that's what the concern is. Like, yeah, they give up things in the back, but we have not been able to find spaces to create those mistakes that they are given. So we just gotta be careful. And then going to your that question, um, I mean, if Horn's out, I'm not a big of a concern in my end on this back. We still have Yaro, we still have Hibbert and Kessler that they're starting on the first game that they performed very well. They didn't allow a shot on goal in that performance. So in that one, I wouldn't be too concerned. If comes the midfield, if Durkin's out and Lewin's out and Morales is out, we got Watts. I would put Ostrak. That will be my 2 in the middle if that's what we need to do. And Wallem should be on the left. I'm telling you what would I'd start with
Right.
if you ask me right now, basically. Celio on the right or put Wallem on the right and Celio on the left. And Hartel, Toit Shirt, and Klaus. That should be. And then for your defense, for your subs, for your bench, bring whatever you bring in defensive wise. Like if you still want Baumgartel and another center mid, whoever is available, bring one different player, please. Like bring either Joyner, either Clover, or even McSorley. And
I'm
then
thinking probably Mark
one
Sully
of
might be
those,
one of them.
like one of those, and you have Betcher and whoever else is available in that end.
Yeah.
But if you have to bring all three, like if it comes to that point where you only have defensive players with Baumgartel and Wenzel that hasn't been even seen minutes or anything, and he's on the roster, I believe. I'm
And
looking
they
at
just mark
on
him
the app
out.
right now. So,
Yeah, I mean, you got Zelensky. You can throw him as a
Zelensky.
reserve. At what? So who's this Miggy? Miggy was an off roster guy. I mean, I don't know that he's really needs to be there, but if you're in an emergency, could you bring up a Miggy Perez?
I think he's still on the first team, right? So
Is
he's
he?
just happened to play CD2.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
he's loaned to City too, but I think that can just always be called and then make a new loan. I don't know, but
Yeah, because I'm looking at the roster here, and he's not on the CD2 roster, unless they've did not update it. But
Yeah,
But
I'm
yeah,
looking
like
at the.
I mean, I'm looking at the app, and Miguel's there, and Clover's there.
Yeah, because they all
Joyner,
have their homegrown contracts, so they're pretty much
yeah,
first team players that just happen to be with City too. So I think those are
Yeah.
the guys that can just move up without
hmm
having to do the
So
crazy
the
negotiation.
the four home guys are homegrowns are Pierce, Joyner, Glover, and Perez. So
Yeah.
you might see two, anywhere between 2 to 4 of them. I think you at least see one of them for sure. But
I could
let's
definitely
hope so.
see my
well, I mean, depending on where we are with these guys that went down in the Austin match and got hurt, it's going to be interesting to say the least to see what happens.
I could see Joyner like in midfield, even though he's a little bit more striker like, but because he has that dog attitude, we'll say. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess we'll know for the next upcoming practices that they have at City. I think there's 2 more before they
Yep.
travel. So yeah, so pretty much we have our predictions, talk about the last game and what we're next against Kansas City. So if you guys don't have anything, we can just call it a night, and definitely appreciate your time, Jeremy, again. And
Hey,
Charlie, good luck with your homework.
I was going to say thanks for letting me come on again, guys. I really appreciate the chance and enjoy talking City. So yeah, appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yep.
Oscar?
Yeah, I mean, I think we enjoyed it. It's an hour and 45 minutes today, so I think we had a lot of anger and comments and things to let out. So it was very fun to everybody that joined the chat. Thanks for coming and joining us and
Keep it
making good
interesting.
questions and comments. It was pretty good. We love more participation and seeing different points of view. So I mean, just I guess it's like people say, like just to move the page, be done with this not so good Austin game, and let's hope for the best for City and in the Furniture Mall on Saturday.
Never gets old.
Let's go. We all travel, like whoever's traveling, obviously bring your A game. Be ready for everything. Be ready for sun, rain. Even like in one forecast, I see like a little bit of snow showers. So just to prepare everybody, if you're traveling, get everything ready, because every time we go over there, it's not such a kind weather. It's such
We're
a
built for it.
but
Yeah.
we're ready for it. Just bring your A game as a supporter. Be ready to chant. Be ready to scream, and be behind our boys for 90 plus minutes. This is a game we cannot lose. So
Excellent. Yes. Well, thank you all for joining another episode of wow. It was a great conversation, so I almost forgot. Top Corner Talk. And also make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't already. And you know what? Go City. We'll see you all either at Children's Park or watch party. So make sure you stay warm, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you.
Vamos
Go
City.
City.
Vamos.
No way. It wasn't.